Hello, and welcome to the Cycle Starters podcast, where we explore the transformative journeys of those who are breaking ancestral patterns and starting new cycles. I'm your host, and today I'm thrilled to welcome AmyJo Davies, a nature based somatic guide and sacred disruptor who's dedicated to helping women navigate life transitions through rhythm, truth, and fierce body wisdom. AmyJo brings a unique perspective on connecting with earth elements and our planetary ancestors, teaching women how to reclaim their innate wisdom and stop performing their worth. In today's episode, we'll dive deep into her work with nervous system attunement, earth-based coherence, and mythic unlearning. We'll explore her personal journey with ancestral healing, discover how she developed her powerful workshop, Co-Regulating with Earth Elements, and learn about the scientific and spiritual foundations of understanding our planet as a living, intelligent being. So if you're ready to explore the intersection of ancestral wisdom, somatic practice, and planetary connection, you are in for a treat. So please don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, and share to support the channel and our growing community of cycle starters. And let's welcome AmyJo to the podcast. Hello, my dear.
Hello, dear friend.
How are you doing today?
Absolutely wonderful.
I'm so happy to hear it. Thank you for saying yes to being on the show. Thank you for saying yes to walking the path that you are walking. And I can't wait to share your story with our community. So let's just jump in. Are you ready?
Yeah, ready.
Awesome. And by the way, this has been a long time coming. AmyJo and I are old friends. I'm just so excited for this. I love you so much. So this is going to be great.
Feelings are mutual, and it's a pleasure to
Yay.
be here and to support you in what you're doing as well.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, thank you. I received that. All right. Well, so let's talk about your ancestry. What can you share with us about your ancestral background?
Yeah, okay. So it's quite interesting because my family have been very interested in documenting our ancestry. So I have records going pretty far back in my family. So I'm really fortunate in that way. In the immediate ancestry on my maternal line, I have Welsh, Scottish, and British. And then in the immediate on my paternal side, I have also British and Welsh and German and Irish. And just recently, further back, we've been, of course, there's a lot of lineage there, but further back, we've been finding Peruvian and also Indian from Southeast Asia. So some really interesting things turning up in my lineage recently that I find to be really cool. And I always think of my ancestry as being sort of a contradiction because there's the colonizer and the colonized. I think that's probably a common theme amongst many people these days. And also there's sort of the fog of the British Isles and then the fire of the southern areas of the country, of the world. And so I kind of have this juxtaposition which fits perfectly with my view of the world. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Well, so I'm so curious, when did the concept of ancestral healing enter your consciousness? And specifically, when did you realize that you had the power to start new cycles, right? That patterns were passed down and that you could be a cycle breaker and a cycle starter?
I love this question. I would say it didn't really start for me as a concept. I don't think it felt like a clean scenario like that. It showed up more like a crack
Hmm.
in the surface of life
Yeah.
and something I could not ignore anymore. I was going through things in life where my body was responding to things that did not make sense in the linear, logical way that we see the world as we do in these modern days. And my dreams started getting louder. And I started having visitation with a grandmother spirit that was coming to me in waking daytime and also in dream space. And at first, it felt kind of like a haunting in a way, not just by what was happening to me in life, but also feeling a bit of a haunting of unspoken things from the people who had gone before me and really feeling into a deep silence that was being carried through my lineage, a suppression. And so I didn't really go looking for ancestral healing per se. I was looking for solid ground to stand on, for breath, spaciousness, right? And for a way to stay grounded in my life without feeling like I was performing life, right?
Mhm.
And the ancestors met me there, and not just blood ancestors, but we'll get into this, I'm sure, but it was the ancestors of the land itself, of the place where I was and places that I had been. And really, truly, nature became the first ancestor for me to really teach me how to listen, teach me how to allow the unraveling that I was in and surrender to it without trying to control it. To not have to feel like I needed to turn to books, to coaches, to theories, to ideas, and really just allow myself to listen the way that I did when I was a child, to the trees, to the stars, to the wind, have conversations with them, and just remember that I used to talk to flowers. They used to talk back to me, right? And finding myself in that place again and remembering that my feet were roots when I was little, that I could be that still, that my rhythm wasn't something that needed to be managed. It was something to move with, to be with. And so that's sort of where it began for me. It started with Earth, ancestral Earth.
I love it. That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And I love how you're bringing into this conversation that we have, ancestors outside of our blood ancestors, right? We have ancestors of the land, we have ancestors from past lives. We also have future ancestors, right?
Absolutely.
And like you said, nature, the minerals are our earliest ancestors. So I'm so excited to get into this conversation with you because I don't know if we've really talked about this on the show. So thank you for bringing that into this conversation. I would love for you to share more about your story. Like, how did you get to this place of sharing your medicine in this way? And you've done so many amazing things. You've lived in different places, you've worn different hats. What can you share with us about your journey getting here?
Yeah, from the place I stand now, and I'm celebrating having reached halfway through my life right now, meaning I just
Yes.
turned 50 not too
Yes.
long ago, and with that has come a lot of reflection, a lot of looking at, like, where am I now? Where have I been? What's next? And I think that what I'm noticing is that there's been a slow remembering. I said unraveling earlier, and that's really the word that really feels resonant to what I've understood my path to be like. There's been a lot of trauma, and trauma in early childhood, but also in my relationships and also in my parenting journey. I'm a mom, and that has been a very, very challenging time for me that I've embraced with love and excitement and joy, like most mothers do, but also with a lot of, I wouldn't say regret, because it's not quite the sensation that I have, but it's a wondering of how did I get myself into the situation? And so there's been a lot of reckoning along that journey of parenthood, grief, experience of losing my first child, and current experience with my son, my one child that's living, and a lot of the things, the challenges that we've gone through together. And so it's been a slow remembering. And I think that you and I, over the years, you've seen me go through a lot of this. And I think one of the phrases that came up for me often when you would say, "How are you doing?" I would say something along the lines of like, "I'm stuck at the bottom of the ocean right now and I can't see anything. It's dark." And that's really what it felt like. I didn't know what was going on, right? And so I'd say that what's come forward now for me has come from a place of noticing that there was overwhelm, or noticing that I was disconnected, or there's something in my field right now that doesn't feel coherent is a way that I could say it now. And it didn't come from affirmations or outside advice or anything like that. It was really just from getting my feet on the ground, barefooted, and pausing, a lot of tears on the ground, literally shedding tears to the earth, and allowing earth to hold me, to embrace me, to give me her support, And that might come in the form of like being in water, even if I could only just take a bath. I live in a place where the water's very cold and it's hard to get into. I love wild water, but even just taking a bath, just, putting my bare feet on the earth, just in the wintertime, cold, hands touching a tree, right? I also am a bee tender, and so it's watching how the bees move through the garden, or just helping myself learn how to sync myself back up with the rhythm, with sunrise and sunset, with my menstrual rhythms, with the moon and the cycling of the moon and the pull of what the moon is bringing forward in my life. And so this is where I've landed. And it's a different rhythm than where I was 5 years ago, 8 years ago. As a business coach many years ago, I was really in the doing, the action, the progress, the hustle culture, all of that. And I feel like the lesson for me was to unwind from that and unwind from the need to perform my role in the world. And what came forward was, this is what the ancestors knew, to touch earth, to be with earth. And it wasn't just about ritual or prayer or ceremony, which is also, these are all very important aspects. But it was deeper than that, really, the relationship with the earth as the first mother, as our mother who teaches us how to be calm, how to regulate ourselves, how to be our natural self. That knowledge lives in our cells, in our DNA, in our circadian clocks. And those ancestors that helped us through our evolutionary path, their DNA memory is still in us. And I believe that's how our bodies find their way back to resonance, to coherence when we feel safe.
Oh my gosh, you are just dropping so many nuggets of wisdom right now. I love it. Well, speaking of co regulating with earth elements, I think we should segue into talking about the beautiful, powerful workshop that you led inside of my membership last year, which is now living inside the Ancestral Healing Collective Resource Library. So, for those of you who are unfamiliar with my work, one of the ways that I serve is through this membership that I've created. Like I said, it's called the Ancestral Healing Collective, and it is a sacred space for cycle breakers and cycle starters to alchemize deep ancestral wounds into creative potential, shifts to higher consciousness, embodied joy, and spiritual gifts with pleasure and astrology as transformative medicine. So we have a new moon pleasure practice, dance party, and most recently I've included some sound healing in our new moon gatherings. And then I also have a guest expert led workshop every month. And AmyJo so generously created this amazing experience last year called Co-Regulating with Earth Elements. So it's in the library. And so if you guys are interested in checking out the membership and checking out AmyJo's wonderful workshop, you can go to heatherrebeccawilson.com/sanctuary, and you'll see that I have a free community called the Cycle Starters Sanctuary. And then the Ancestral Healing Collective is the paid upgrade. It's $55 a month, and there's like 25 amazing workshops in there, including AmyJo's. So for somebody who's curious about experiencing this, my dear, what would you tell them to best prepare to get the most out of it?
Well, if you haven't already guessed, I would say start slow. I really feel that being present for our learning is a very valuable thing that is becoming something of the past, because our attention is being pulled in so many directions all the time. It's the nature of our digital world that we live in. And so, yeah, I feel like slowing down and showing up in a way that you can be present with the information. And so in the workshop, there's a lot of heady information. It kind of starts out like that. And it's because we've lost so much in our process of over time, really losing connection with our ancestors, losing connection with our natural way of being in the world. And so I always say slow down first, right? And allow yourself to be open to receiving ideas that might challenge what you currently think and believe. And I do this and, in my introduction, you said I'm a sacred disruptor, and I say that in the most loving way. I disrupt things very lovingly because
Yes.
I really do. I love science so much. And also, we don't get the full picture. We're not taught the full picture in school. We're not taught the full picture in our culture. And in fact, there is a lot that has been intentionally erased from cultures, from oppressors, from many different aspects, right? And so when people come into my workshops, I want them to be open to the fact that, hey, I'm going to share with you some things that are really interesting and to me are just mind blowing, curiosity sparking wonderment of, wow, this is how our bodies work and this is how nature works. It's so miraculous and magical in so many ways. But I approach it from a quantum perspective. And this is how our current science is saying we live in a quantum universe. Things have changed from when we were in school and what we taught when we were in science class in our younger years. And so it's expanding and it sometimes is disruptive to our pattern of thinking. It can be a way of like causing confusion if you don't approach it the right way. So all of that to say, don't throw this on and think you're gonna, like, get some chores done around the house.
Right.
Right? It asks something different from you. It's a threshold, so allow it to be a threshold. Light a candle if you wanna do that. Take a breath, put your feet on the earth, and even just that small act of pausing before you go into learning, that's part of the medicine. And then asking, "Whatever needs to land, please let it land for me. Please let me just take away what I need today." Right. So there's no need to take notes or get it right. It's really, and this is my whole approach, is body-based wisdom. Listen with your body, allow your body to lead. Let your nervous system feel that pace of nature and the rhythm of something that is older than that urgency that you might be living from right now, that most of us are living from. Right. And so this offering is meant to be a reminder of that childhood curiosity that most of us had of what the world around us could be. And also a reminder of what coherence could feel like. What does it feel like to actually, not just conceptually, but really biologically feel like you're regulated and just let that wash through you.
My goodness. I mean, this workshop is so freaking amazing. I was blown away by it. I think you're such an amazing teacher. You're an amazing communicator. And your embodied wisdom, your energetic transmission comes through so powerfully. So thank you for creating this experience for our community. Again, if you guys want to check it out, go to heatherrebeccawilson.com/sanctuary and sign up for the monthly membership. The Ancestral Healing Collective, Amy Jo's workshop is in there and it's in the library so you can watch it over and over again. So
Mm,
yeah, it's so fantastic. All right, so sis, I have to throw a curveball at you because
okay.
um I mentioned that in the collective we engage with pleasure as transformative medicine. And I feel so strongly in my bones because of my lived experience, my embodied experience, we cannot spiritually bypass the body when it comes to ancestral healing. So that's why I include jade egg or crystal egg work in our community. So we met at a conference, at a business conference in LA when you were living here. And then, just like totally separately, we signed up for the same program, which was the Vita coaching program. It was called something else back then. And it was a training program to become a sex, love, and relationships coach with Layla Martin. And the reason I was drawn to the program, and I think we were drawn to it for similar reasons, was this beautiful blend it had of tantra with neuroscience, right? Because we're both I'm like jumping ahead a little bit to the astrology right here because we're both Gemini risings, right? So we're
Yeah.
curious people, right? And
Yeah.
kind of nerdy like that. So I want to hear from you what going through that program did for you. How did that impact the way you share your medicine now? Because I know, and you know this, that I would not be where I'm at without having gone through that program, because I feel like all of the root healing and sacral healing that we had to do, right, in order to hold space for other folks, it kind of defrosted, it loosened up all of the stagnant energy that was in my womb space and in my root, which allowed for my massive energetic clearing of ancestral trauma and racialized trauma in 2018. So, what did it do for you? Please share. I feel like people need to know this.
Okay. Huge curveball, and this is
I
awesome. I
know, I'm
love it.
sorry, but I
It's
can't help it.
okay. No, it's okay, actually, because I've thought about this so much over these many years that I think it was 2017 that we completed that. Is that right?
Mhm. Yeah, that's right.
2016, 17 was when
We
we
were
were
the
in that
first
course.
class.
Yeah. And I'll start with this. The reason that I was inclined to go into that course to begin with was that I had clients coming to me over and over again who had some history of sexual trauma in their life. And I did not know how to hold space for that. And I, being the ever curious, ever growing, constantly learning woman that I am, I was like, okay, this is coming to me. Universe is giving me this sign to this thread needs to be followed. So that's why I landed there. And I have been a neuroscience nerd forever because of a traumatic brain injury when I was young, and neuroscience wasn't even a thing back then. So the body-based wisdom to me was at the time was really more around nutrition, which I had initially been a certified nutrition coach, and around those aspects of well-being that were more on the holistic natural side of things. And what happened for me through the process of going through this program and implementing the practices, it was quite a regimen. We had a lot of daily practice and also quite a lot of reading, which the nerd in me loved. I read some books that cracked open some information in my body,
Mhm.
and also the practices that cracked open information in my body that my mind hadn't grasped yet, but my body knew. And most specifically, the book, The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk, right? That book was such a lighthouse for me to see the trajectory of what had been going on in my life post a near death car accident and traumatic brain injury. Also, further back, some sexual trauma in my childhood that I didn't have a recollection of, but I knew there was something there. When I started uncovering those pieces, I would say probably deeper trauma came forward first, because this is the nature of how things work. Sometimes it's not a linear path to, oh my God, I'm healed. Like it doesn't happen like that. We cycle up and down, back and forth, all around into the underworld, into the bliss, all over the place. And so it started that cycling for me, the spiraling, the cycling, the curious, like what's going on with me, trying to have conversations with family members that didn't go as well as I had hoped, and a lot of things that were really breaking open for me. I would say though, now where I stand now and looking in hindsight, that that container was really important for me to be able to allow myself to go into the discovery in a held place with such a potent community of women around me, who you and many other women who I've stayed in contact with, who I'm now, really part of. The women are part of my life now. We hold each other. And that was really important because I was in that unknown territory. I was going through my son's challenges with mental health. I was going through so many things. And so having a place to unravel and kind of lose myself, I would say for a while, really very much thoroughly lost myself for a while. I had a place to come back to. I had a reference to come back to that was body based, that was neurologically based, that also had physical things I can do. Here's what you can do. And that was really helpful. But I think part of the journey for all of us at that time was figuring out which parts, because we had so much information, which parts apply to me, what applies to the place that I'm in my life right now. And so when I look back on it, I can see, I can recognize that from a dysregulated place in my nervous system, from where I had landed at that point, I didn't know how to figure anything out. And this is what led me to where I am now, is figuring out, oh, so much is related to being able to hold ourselves, to not just lean outward to the containers of the courses, the programs, the teachers, the mentors, the relationships around us, but actually, how do I hold myself and discover for myself what path is right for me? And it's our bodies. Our bodies will tell us if we learn how to listen. And so it's been like this very long trajectory. I mean, really long trajectory for me since 2016, 17, of feeling like, oh, I'm here, I'm grounded, I see it, I can feel it. The past couple of years have been like this massive transformational time for me to really land in my body and land in the teachings that now come forward from me, because I know now so much better where the wisdom's coming from, how to hold it, how to explain it, from a place that is not only my experience, but now from a conglomerate of the people that I've supported through the experience of figuring out who we are, remembering who we are, and really landing in that. And the body practices 100% are necessary for us. I think that is a big piece of where our culture is moving. We have been in a spiritually ascendant kind of trajectory for many, many years. And our wisdom has been coming from ancient wisdom, ancient teachings that are really important, that were really important to a people at a time who were very grounded because they were connected to the earth. And that ascension was part of their missing piece. But now we have done this up, up, up so much to higher power, higher source, higher information, ascending, transcending, that we've lost the connection to the body, to the earth. We need the rooting, the grounding, the widening of our field. And so I feel like that's where the work is right now for us as a culture.
Oh my goodness. So potent. Yeah, that was a transformative experience, right? I feel like it really set us off on a new path in a way,
Yeah.
deepened our work. It was very expansive. It was a lot of work. I know that
Yes.
they've lessened the amount of work. I think they learned from the first cohort, like, oh, this is too much for people. But my God, I would not be where I'm at today without having gone through it, without having saying, yes to it. I'm just so glad that I did. All right. So, oh my gosh. I mean, we could take this conversation in so many different directions because you're so smart and so creative and so multifaceted. But I want to talk some astrology because the Astro Ancestral Healing Collective, in addition to engaging with pleasure as transformative medicine, because I believe that pleasure gives you the fuel to sustain yourself on an ancestral healing journey, right? Because there's so many ups and downs, right? And it can't all just be about trauma. We need to pour back into ourselves, right? And get in touch with our embodied joy and whatnot. But astrology, the way I relate to it is that I feel like it's a very empowering framework and language for not only understanding yourself as an energetic being on an ancestral healing journey, but empowering yourself. And so, having said that, I want to know, do you feel comfortable sharing your sun, moon, and rising sign with our listeners and our viewers?
Of course. I know you already know all of this about me. But yes, I'm happy to share. And I just wanted to add before I do that, that one of the things that has been this like spark of curiosity, that, there's always something for me around astrology, is the wonderment of how accurate it can be to help us relate to, like what you said, ourselves, our personality, our energy, but also outward, to relate that this is a universe that knows me. It knows me. And it's like, here you go. Here's what I know about you. And it's just
Mhm.
amazing. It's amazing. Yeah.
Truly.
So anytime I support somebody in just the little surface level, because this is not my field, though it's a deep curiosity, the surface level aspects of like, what about your stars? What is your birth chart? Whenever I bring that into what I do, people just go, wow, I can't believe how accurate this is.
Yeah.
So it's incredible. And you've been absolutely a huge light for me, guiding light for me in this world. All that
My
said,
goodness. Thank you.
I mean, you're just incredible with this wisdom. So my sun is in Aries. I'm on the last day of Aries, and I have a Leo moon. So there's a lot of fire and more fire. So I definitely have that kind of drive, the instinctual moving forward kind of thing and expressive, but also very heart led, I would say.
Hmm.
And I will walk through fire. I am a fire dancer, used to be a fire dancer. I love fire very much. So, like, it's just something that's really amazing to me. And I have no problem walking through fire if that's what's going to lead me to where I need to go. And in fact, I
Wow.
have walked over fire coals before too. So I'll do it. Fire. I'm like, give me some fire. And then depending on what system you follow, we were talking about this before. My rising is a Taurus rising if you're looking at sidereal. And then I'm also, if you're looking at tropical, I'm a Gemini rising. And both of those feel so accurate to me that it's like cool that I can have two and relate to both of them in different ways and different times of my life. So,
Oh my goodness. This is so fun. So we have so many similarities in our charts.
yeah.
It's so interesting to look at them side by side. So I too am an Aries sun, but I'm on the second day of
Mm.
Aries. And I'm a Gemini rising, but I'm a Virgo moon. You have a lot of fire in your big three with the Leo moon, which is fixed fire, and Aries is cardinal fire. The difference between the two is that cardinal is the initiating fire, right? And fire represents our passions, creative sparks, our intuition, inspiration. And Leo, like I said, is fixed fire. So it's the most stable expression of fire. And there's so many places we could go with this. I think I want to start with your Leo moon, actually. So the moon in our natal chart speaks to our emotional core, our emotional inheritance, which includes ancestral wounds, but also the gifts our ancestors have given us. And I've also come to understand that the moon placement also tells us what we need to give ourselves in order to feel at home and safe in our own energy. And so when I tune into the energy of the Leo moon, what that says to me about your emotional life is that creativity is really important to you for you to feel good. Because like the archetype that I associate with the Leo energy, which is a spectrum, right? All the signs are a spectrum of psycho-spiritual energy with a high expression and a low expression. The Leo archetype for me is the devoted performer, and finding the right stage for you to shine is really that Leo growth journey. And you can find people who are totally averse to being in the spotlight. And then the other end of the spectrum, they're addicted to the spotlight. They're addicted to getting praise and external validation. And so the growth journey is, how do I move into right relationship with attention and praise? The other thing about Leo moons is that you're so big hearted, right? You can hold a room's attention. And one thing you have to just track and be careful of is that, when you are going through something, you have to remember to tell people, because a Leo moon thing is sometimes suffering in silence because you don't want to disappoint other people because you're used to being the life of the party, the hostess with the mostest, right? And you don't want to like bother people with like your stuff. So, how have you managed this Leo moon? So, like, what do you do to take care of your emotional life with this placement?
Hmm. Such a rich question. I was really relating to both the averse to attention and craving to be in the spotlight. And I've lived in both of those places back and forth, sort of as what I used to think was almost like a multi personality.
Hmm.
But in reality, it was just different expressions of myself that wanted to come through, and I would suppress one and allow the other, and then suppress the other and allow the so it's been a process, right? And also, having many years being on stage, literally as a performer, as a dancer, and that's been a big piece of my life. So I would say, the managing of my emotional body has been messy.
Hmm.
That's the best way I can say it. the learning journey has been difficult for that. And also, the tendency to not allow people in to my emotional world has been challenging. The people very close to me, they're in, they're no problem. But externally, people are in the periphery, not usually. And so, yeah, it's been one other thing I want to add is that my family of origin also taught me, modeled to me that we remain stoic and that we put on a smile and trudge through life anyways, kind of an
Yeah.
attitude.
Right.
And that's sort of like a very British thing. I'm a second generation born American. And so we have a lot of those kinds of phrases in my upbringing from my father's side. And so my siblings and I grew up with that. And so it's been a pattern of unlearning that piece and relearning the part that is more humanitarian focused of like, we are part of humanity. We don't have to be a stoic soldier, like a stiff statue that holds everything. We can actually be fluid. We can move with the things that are happening around us. We can change. We are malleable. And so allowing myself to do that in real time has been hard. And one of the things in my stars that comes up often in my chart is that my role is to show up messy and to show up in the process of my learning. And that has been really, really, really hard for me because I always want to show that polished version of, I got it figured out and now I'll show you how to do it too. And
Hmm.
that's just not how most people are. It's so fake. And I've really resigned myself to not fall into that trap, that marketing trap of this is how we present ourselves, and whether we're actually marketing business or just marketing the self,
Hmm.
presenting the self to the world in a certain way on, our perfectly curated Instagram feeds or whatever
Hmm.
version
Hmm.
of showing up, right? So all of that to say is that my emotional body has been asking to be seen and yet not having the wisdom of being allowed to receive the insight when I'm seen. And so there's been a lot of this kind of like, I'll show up and then I'll get really vulnerable after that and I'll just disappear and close off for a long time. And then I'll be like, okay, I gotta get back out there. I'm being like, I keep hermiting myself. So I've been going through these cycles and I'm witnessing more of that in myself now and catching myself in the act of not being with my full humanity and not allowing people to witness me being in my full humanity. So
My
hopefully that
goodness.
answers the question.
No, that no, that's so fascinating. Thank you. And what's coming up is this theme of performance. And it seems like one of the ancestral wounds potentially is performing emotional stoicism, right? We're
Yes.
performing that we've got it all together, right? But that's also the gift that they've
So
given you.
much.
In a way too, because your creativity, your ability to be on stage and capture everyone's attention with your poise and your movements and your energy, that's also a gift from them too. Yeah, that's so interesting. That's super
There's a
interesting.
something that you just said that sparked something for me, which is that in my Irish lineage, the women and men, but mostly the women were keening. That was the expression of grief was keening, and that
Mhm.
was attempted to be erased from our culture. And this journey for me, as you know, and I won't go into it, but there's been so much grief. I mean, so much grief and learning how to vocalize when I'm grieving to actually allow sound through my body has been so challenging for me. And
Mhm.
I know it's part of that suppression of the spiritual nature, the natural grieving process that my culture really embraced. And there were actual paid roles for someone to come in and keen at a funeral. And that is, just barely starting to surface again as a part of the lineage and the heritage and allowed to be expressed again. And for me to actually go through that process of studying my ancestral lineage from that perspective, from the Celtic overarching Celtic perspective, which is another story, but that doesn't even mean anything, so we won't go there. But from those lands, from where my people were living and growing and erased from, and languages taken away, and so much. And so when I allowed myself to start going into the study of this part of my heritage and realized so many of the things that were taken away, it made sense why I couldn't speak when I was sad. It made sense why I literally had a voice block.
Hmm.
I also have been singing my whole life, and most of my siblings also sing. We are singers in my family, and I have sung at many funerals. And when it is a person that I'm very close to, there's no sound that comes out. When the grief is so big, I cannot get sound out. And it's been a pain point for me that I now can see why it's there, and I can work with it, because I had been disallowing my grief to come forward in so many other ways. And so working with it, and maybe, I don't know, I haven't sung at a funeral in a long time, but maybe I can do that. Actually, I had the opportunity last year, and I didn't even take it because I knew that was what was going to happen, because
Right.
I haven't processed it yet. Right. So there's little pieces, little clues like that coming forward that I can find in my ancestry and in my natal chart that help me to see that there's nothing wrong with me. This was given to me as the path to follow, as there's a little thread of curiosity. Let's go follow that thread. And in that, the unraveling can happen and the wisdom can arise.
My goodness. All right. We could talk about so many things. Okay.
I know.
Let's talk about your rising sign. So I'm a Gemini rising. You're a Gemini rising. We have this in common in addition to the Aries sun. So the rising sign, it's the vehicle for your divine mission, for your purpose. It's your perception of reality. It's the lens that you see everything through. And the people that you're meant to serve, they actually pick up on your rising sign qualities rather than your sun sign qualities, because your sun is where you shine, and it's the special sauce that you mix into everything that you do that makes you stand out from the 11 other signs. But it's how you see yourself. And the rising sign is your aura, your energetic signature. When people first meet you, that's what they pick up. And the reason we ask people's birth times when we do a natal chart reading is because the rising sign changes, multiple times a day, maybe every hour, every 2 hours. So
I never knew that.
you are a Gemini rising. So, Gemini, in terms of modality and element, is mutable air. And air is our thoughts, our consciousness, our beliefs, our communication. So, the throat chakra. And it's like known for being so freaking curious and being a flexible learner, a quick study, really good at writing, speaking, singing, I think is another form of this. And the lower expression of Gemini, I would say, is being too caught up in your head, scatterbrained, being all over the place. And I'm sure I've told you this before I got into astrology, I had a heavy bias towards Geminis, which is so hilarious. So, I take my astrology training and I'm like, really? I'm a Gemini rising? This is so funny. Allowed me to appreciate myself more, because I often think that our rising sign qualities are in the shadow, right? The good and the bad. So it allowed me to appreciate aspects of myself that I wasn't fully loving. And then also, I had to own some of those Gemini qualities that I was projecting onto other Geminis. So Tell
Classic.
me tell me about your Gemini rising journey. I mean, you're so smart, you are very curious, and the other cool thing about being a Gemini is that I feel like we have the unique ability, this is our special sauce, to see the connections between things that other people don't see, and I feel like you're really living this out. So tell me more about your Gemini rising life.
My goodness, how much time do we have? No, I won't go that long. That connecting the dots thing has been a major theme of my life, and also, I would say, something that people notice in me a lot and point out to me, and I didn't really know that it was a Gemini thing until like not that long ago, really, maybe in the past few years. My father and grandfather and great grandfather were engineers. And so in my whole life, I've said, oh, well, I have an engineering mind. I can think left brain, right brain, but it is very Gemini. And the other aspect of Gemini that is the social butterfly piece that has confused me because I am so introverted.
Hmm.
And yet I have this very external relating that I do. And I want to know everybody. I can read a room as soon as I walk in, and I know everything, like who needs to meet each other. And that networking people together thing starts waking up because I'm like, look at this. I can see. I love to throw a party and bring people
Yes.
from different worlds together and just stand back and see who's going to make friends, what's going to happen, what kind of connections. I love doing that, but yet I'm super introverted. And so there's a very strong paradoxical juxtaposition happening inside of that aspect of myself. I really could talk about this part for a long time. What else specifically before I start going off on a tangent?
Yes, you are a social butterfly. And yes, you throw great parties at the house, at restaurants, at, music venues. I've been to several of them, but it also
It's
makes
fun.
sense that you need to come home and hermit a little bit and be in your own energy because you're very sensitive and very psychic. And I think that's why you're such a great coach, teacher, mentor. And then the other thing is that Aries is also very psychic because it's the first sign of the zodiac, and we're both Aries suns. This is where we shine. We're natural leaders, natural pioneers. We have a lot of courage. Back in the day when they were like, we need a scout to go ahead of everybody else into unknown territory, right? And they don't know what's out there. Aries will
I'm
be
like,
like,
I got my
okay,
machete.
I will
I'm
go.
ready.
Exactly.
Like, chop to the woods. Let's go. Yeah,
Totally. Totally.
100%.
But, there's no one ahead of us to tell us go this way, don't go that way. And so Aries has to be really connected to source, be open to receive those divine downloads because we're blazing a new path, right? We're blazing a new trail. And so, I just think you're very sensitive to energy, right? You pick up on people's energy. So it makes sense that you need to come home to yourself, take a bath, just be alone. Also to process your emotions. That's really important too. But tell me about your Aries sun
Yeah,
and being a leader.
that trailblazing is so much what I do. And fire starting, I love starting projects. I get so many ideas and I love starting all of them. And I don't have the follow through that culture would like for me to have. I love delegating once it gets to a certain point, being like, okay, run with it. Like I started something here, I'm not going to finish it, but I really want someone to do this, so go. So that's a big part of how I've been operating. I definitely have grounded in a lot better to how can I actually finish my own projects. And that comes with a strong leaning into the starting new things. So having a foundational piece that will hold the structure of what I'm creating, of many things to create, to have that foundational structure, and then let myself be the creative one that comes up with new ideas, that comes with different sparks of creation that want to go in different places inside of that foundational container. That's been really powerful for me. And a big piece in allowing for that has been this place where I am now. I've moved a lot in my life. I've lived a lot of places. And right now, the home that we live in, we've been restoring an old house and also taking this piece of land that was pretty sad and turning it into a beautiful garden. And that process of literally putting roots down and having a story with every plant that gets down into the land where I live, and everything that gets taken out of this land and restored with something that is more meaningful to be there, that is more native to the place where we are. Every action that I take in that way has helped me to feel that foundation strengthening beneath me, and has given me a lot more of a permission to be luxurious in the starting of new ideas. So that looks like starting seeds. That looks like starting things in my business. That looks like taking on a different kind of client that I would maybe not have worked with in the past, but let's explore what this might be like. Or starting things like unhooking things that had been part of my life that no longer serve me. And there's been a lot of that as well. Even though it's kind of a stopping of something, it's also a starting of something new. And so I see that as a space opening, space clearing action that I've been pretty strongly engaged in for the past few years as well, of really unhooking a lot of things and making space for new. Yeah.
I'm gonna have to have you on another time so that we can continue this conversation because, again, I keep saying this, we could just talk for hours and hours. Okay. Well, so I want to know from you right now, what are you working on that you are really excited about that you can share with our community?
Yeah. Which one? I just told you I
So
start
many
things.
projects.
No, I'm kidding. I tease. So what I'm really excited about right now, I have 2 tracks that I'm developing and are launching. So by the time that this podcast goes live, this will have just launched. So I'm very excited. It's coming right up. So the first track is called Rhythms Reset, and this is for the woman who is still in the spiral of not really finding her place in her body. Maybe, just spinning too much right now. And so this is a subscription, low cost subscription. And it's a monthly practice that can be 5 minutes, 10 minutes long that will drop you into your body and reconnect you with the world around you, to nature, to yourself, to your place on this earth. And it's very gentle, but also deeply rooted in neuroscience, in quantum biology, in nervous system regulation, in somatic practices, and all of the many things that I've studied. I've kind of compiled this into a very simple process for somebody who just needs to find a way to organize her day and land in her body. So that
Nice.
one's really, really beautiful. I'm so excited about that. And then the other piece is also a monthly series. It's a workshop series. And this is a journey of weaving in the quantum into your life. So whether that's a physiological aspect of quantum, so quantum biology, meaning attunement to circadian rhythms, but also a bit of mythic storytelling, and what I would say is more like the earth-based seasonal wisdom. And I've kind of touched on this, but there's a lot that we've been programmed with in our belief systems, that this is my sacred disruptor speaking, that we
Hmm.
really need to stop. We really need to unhook ourselves from these old stories that are not serving us as a culture, as humanity, as women, especially, who have been so oppressed inside of these stories. And so this is sort of an unlearning workshop series, and then remembering what's actually here, what's actually real, what's actually part of who we are, what's in our bodies, what's in our DNA, and what's part of this greater world around us. And so I would say this is for somebody who's really curious, who wants to explore different threads, from womb intelligence to herbal rhythms to feminine timekeeping, and how to live your life from a more cyclical place, but also really resonating into coherence with where are we going? Where are we headed? And that, allowing ourselves to come there from that relational place, from the relational place of like, this is our community, we need things to change. How are we going to do that? From a quantum perspective, it's about envisioning the new and finding ways to bring that forward through our actions and through our body based wisdom. So that one's called The Wild Weave.
Huh? I love it.
And also, it's a low cost workshop. It's going to be running once a month, in the middle of the month. And the Rhythms Reset will drop a new rhythm every the beginning of each month. So both very low entry price point. My mission is to cut out the piece of the coaching world that makes everything so high priced and inaccessible. I want this to reach as many women as possible. And I believe it's our birthright to have this information, and it's being kept from us. And I've been tapping into different places where the information's just coming through, and I want more people to have access to it. So those
Mm,
are the 2 tracks. You can take one, you can take both, you can do one once one month and one the other month, or however you want to play with it. And the Wild Weave and Rhythms Reset are both going to be just these really beautiful paths for people to come back into remembrance.
amazing. So Gemini, two paths. I
Has
love
to be.
it. And then connecting all of these amazing topics together, weaving
Yeah.
weaving everything together. So Gemini,
Yeah.
I love it. Okay. Well, so I will put the links to those 2 tracks in our show notes, so you're gonna send those to me.
Yeah, actually, it's all gonna live in the same place. So
Tell me. Okay.
amyjodavies.com/social because it's on my social bio. So
Okay.
you can find both of them. You could just follow me on Instagram, which is at the AmyJo Davies. Also on Facebook, same at the AmyJo Davies. And my bio link will take you to that and whatever else is cropping up this week, because it certainly will be different. Every moon we'll find something new in my links. Yeah.
These offerings sound so magical. I'm very excited for you, and I'm excited to see this sparkle in your eye and feel this excitement about getting out there, right? And sharing your medicine because you've really been on a journey, like you said, of hermiting, not sure what you wanted to do because you've created so many things over the course of your life. So I'm really happy and excited for you, and I know that these things are gonna be so amazing because you're in such a empowered place, more so than ever, I feel. Um, yeah, I'm just really
I
excited
feel
for
it
you.
too.
Well, my
Thank you,
dear,
Heather.
so at the end of each podcast episode, I ask my guests the same question. So what are the new cycles that you are starting in your lineage?
Cycles where we trust our bodies and we know exactly who we are. That's the big one. I would say cycles where women don't apologize for knowing, truly knowing themselves, where creativity isn't squeezed into these little tiny timelines and containers that are artificially created and don't actually resonate for us, and where children learn from watching their mothers rest and cry and wail and rise and create and build and stand in their power. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much for saying yes to being on the show. I love you, and you're going to have to come on again. And I'm hoping also that you will teach another workshop in 2026.
Okay.
Yeah. So this has been amazing. I'm giving you a big hug through the screen.
One in person soon, please.
Yes, I know. I know. It's been too long. So this has been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Heather. It's been such a pleasure and an honor. And to anybody who's witnessing and feeling it, I welcome and honor you as well. I'm so grateful that there's something like this for us to tap into and that you've created this space for people to come together and learn and figure out who they are. So beautiful.
Thank you. I
Thank
received
you,
that.
Heather.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Thank you. Well, everyone, we will see you next time on the Cycle Starters podcast. Take care. Bye, everybody.